The Dogs are going to record their first win for season 9 and the first win under coach Tam Hyett.
There is no more daunting role in sports than that of a senior coach, and this guest is about to provide us an insight into the reasons why. It came as no surprise when she was announced at the helm of the Western Bulldogs AFLW side due to her ability to connect with people and elite football IQ. From the world of professional golf to the top of the AFL game, this is Tamara Hyett. I couldn't think of a better way to start a week than sitting down and chatting to one of the all-time great humans, Tam. It is so good to see you.
Lovely to be here, Gibbo. I'm excited.
I am too. You're a head coach now, which no doubt comes with a very busy schedule. You're fresh back from Perth. What does that schedule look like a week out from the AFLW season?
Well, it all starts today. We've got our season launch. Got a meeting with the board. Tomorrow we've got the league season launch. And then just fine-tuning. We're 10 days out from playing against Melbourne for round 1. So, yeah, just fine-tuning everything and hopefully ready to go by then.
It's all happening. You've got obviously 2 kids at home as well, Raph and Rose.
Yes.
You've got a wife, Bridie, who probably is sick of you being away from home and flying around Australia. How do you manage the work-life balance of an AFLW coaching role?
Well, you've got to have a great understanding partner. So I'm very lucky is that this is my dream job. So you've got to have that support. We've got, as you said, a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old. So Ship's in the night. She starts work pretty early. I do the drop-offs, the school drop-off, the daycare drop-off, and then she does the after-school shift. And by about 7 o'clock, we're face-to-face again. But, yeah, it's a balance. But, yeah, it's not a normal 9-to-5 job. No. That I have. So, yeah, you've definitely got to have the support of family and friends that can give you a chop out as well. So, very lucky.
How much does work come home with you? Are you watching Vision and keeping the laptop open whilst you are at home?
Yeah, it's always with you. Taking calls. You're always sitting there thinking, even on the couch, watching some rubbish TV and always thinking how you can get better. I've got better at it. So what am I, 18 months into it now? Probably last year I was a bit bringing everything home. But, yeah, trying to be more present at home and then which helps with a better balance. But, yeah, it's forever consuming. But, yeah, that's if you want to improve things, sometimes that's the way it's got to be. But, yeah, I'm getting better at striking the right balance.
Are you enjoying the process and thinking this is a sustainable lifestyle for a long-term career?
Yeah, I think so. I think being new to the program and sort of resetting a program, there's probably more work early on. So hopefully there's more time to make it sustainable, if that makes sense. Yeah. I think it's all-encompassing, and I think I was probably a little bit naive to think coming into the role, having only worked as an assistant, some of the additional stuff that you have to do as a head coach. We're in a situation with the W League that it's not fully full-time for players. It's getting that way. So from a staffing perspective, I'm the only full-time coach. So there's a lot of additional stuff that you have to do, as well as, meeting with executives, setting up strategies and things like that. So it's not just about coaching. There's a lot of additional stuff. So probably a little bit naive. I think kudos to Mick. He seemed to have a pretty good balance, but you don't see what goes on. So I think down the track, maybe a little bit more share the load once we get greater resources and it's pretty hectic.
How do you find coaching game day? There's only a certain amount of a game you can control from a box.
Yeah.
Do you find it hard to watch when you can't quite get things going the way you'd like?
Yeah, you pretty much give up all control really on game day. But I think if you do the stuff during the week, understanding that they are trying to do what the message that you've given them during the week. So I love game day. Like, I think the work, you can then see the end result. Sometimes it doesn't go your way, but yeah, I'm pretty invested and quite passionate. So, game day can be, what's going to happen, and you just hope that I think the routine and things that you've created during the week for the players and the consistent messaging that then they can execute. You're giving them the best chance to execute, and we want our role to be redundant. So if we're educating our players right, hopefully game day our role does become redundant. It's just a bit more of a cheerleader and at the break. So love game day. That's what we do it for. That's the next best thing to being on the field. So, but yeah, sometimes you do want to get out there and kick it for them.
Are you able to stay relatively calm watching?
Yeah, I think I do it. I actually think for my personality, I do a very good job of staying calm. It's one thing that I actually have on game day, the top of my notebook, calm and clear. And I learnt that from Melbourne days, is that, if you want to get some clear messaging, you've got to be calm, and players and also the other coaches and staff feed off you. So if you can remain calm and clear, and I think that brings a sense of calm amongst the group as well.
How do you go delivering a big three-quarter time address? Is there thoughts going through your mind during the third quarter, for example, thinking this is what I'm going to hit them with, or does it all sort of come to you naturally?
Oh, I'm much better at ad-lib. Like, I'll write notes down and then I'll walk off after three-quarter time. I'm like, I did not mention one thing that I've written down, which I actually just did when we were over in Perth, the practice match. I was walking off. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I didn't tick off anything like that. So I'm more, you got to get a sense of the feeling. So last year I coached from the bench, so you had a greater sense of how the players were feeling, what the game felt like. Up in the box, it's more, I guess you see a lot, but you don't feel. So making sure you're getting some I guess, player feedback on how the game's feeling, and then that will assist with the message that you deliver as soon as you get out there.
Is building those relationships and communicating with the players one of your main passions? Is that what got you into coaching?
Yeah, I love it. That's my personality. Is I just like people. I could probably talk to anyone, which you would know, Gibbo.
That's why you're here.
Yeah, that's why I'm here. But I think but what I've learned as a coach is those relationships are really crucial to getting buy-in and building that trust. But also because I think that, you need to build the relationship and we should connect straight away. It doesn't mean the other person is like that. So you've got to have an understanding that sometimes other people, it'll take time. And that's probably something that I've learnt the last 12 months. You've got 30 different personalities that you're dealing with. Doesn't mean that they're always going to buy in and connect to you straight away, the relationship piece. But yeah, it takes time as well. Some will, you connect with straight away, but others you just have to chip away and allow them to feel comfortable.
I was actually at Footscray last year. I was doing an interview with Oscar Baker whilst the girls were training, and there was just so much fun happening. I think girls were rolling on the ground and you had them jumping up on shoulders. Do you try to bring that fun energy to every session to get that best out of them?
Yeah, you have to, but there's always a purpose. So I think that as soon as for us it's, potentially in the past the Bulldogs have been seen as, the fun social club, which is great, but there's also got to be a level of professionalism and we're here to do a job, a high performance environment, but you've got to be able to, so there's always method to the madness for me. So that connection piece is crucial and the trust, but making sure they're enjoying what they're doing because then they want to keep doing it and come back and stay within the environment. So yeah, it's a fine balance, but I think our girls are really good now at understanding when then to switch on. So yeah, it's a balance, but I mean, you've got to love your working environment, otherwise it just becomes a chore. So, and it's no different to sports people.
I guess another extension of that and showing personality has become social media, and AFLW players are popping up on my TikTok left, right and centre.
Everywhere.
Dancing in the change rooms. As a coach, how do you look at that and see the way they're using their socials? Yeah,
it's interesting because sometimes you go, well, they're giving so much energy to the socials. It's like, okay, let's bring that on the field as well. It's the way the world is. So you want to make sure that they're still being themselves and, look, that's the era today. So I'm all for it, but as long as, just like we spoke about, as long as they've got that balance. I mean, we were at the airport the other day waiting to catch our flight to Perth, and the girls were doing a TikTok. And I'm like, I would generally be, oh, come on, girls. But then I'm like, well, that's a norm now.
Yeah.
So you don't want to take that away, but yeah, it's interesting to watch. Yeah.
Do you consume it? Do you want to see them, or are you kind of happy to just let that go?
Nah, I'm happy to let it go. I'll watch it. I'm not a talker, so to speak. So every now and then the girls ask me, "Oh, come on, do this," and then I'm like, I'm just going to look like a dick. So and embarrass my family. So every now and then I might get involved, but yeah, I'm happy to keep it to the young ones.
That's fantastic.
I mean, I could be their mum. I could be their mum, most of them. So yeah, it's like the weird auntie.
Media as a whole is a pretty big part of footy now. Are you someone who's welcoming?
Yeah, I am. It takes a bit to get used to. I think that was the last year. I guess you want to be open, and then you're like, well, how open do you want to be? There's obviously got a job to do, and some of them have a narrative that they want to roll out. I'm all for media, and we have an open door policy. Doesn't mean sometimes that I like some of the things that are said, and I think sometimes there's a bit of lazy journalism, to be honest, and which I dealt with last year, so which can be not tough on me, but tough on the family, is that they're quite protective. But, we have an open door policy, and, if we want to promote the game, media is a really crucial part of that.
How do you deal with criticism?
I'm much better. I think that's what I learnt last year, is that I'm probably more resilient than what I ever thought. As I said, it's tougher on the family. But yeah, I sort of take it with a grain of salt now. Like, as I said, they've got a job to do, as long as I'm ticking the boxes for those people inside the four walls. But yeah, it can be tough when you see loved ones that struggle with. I know there was a period last year after the Essendon game that was pretty tough for the family, because they're sort of judging you rather than seeing the work that goes into things. So, yeah.
What are your thoughts on the analysis from the media on footy? Are they different worlds from the way you analyse a game compared to the way the media analyses a game, or is there sort of
I think
accuracy?
so. Yeah, it's interesting because we want to promote the women's game. But I think I struggle sometimes with the fact that we've got 18 teams and not everyone has the same list profile, so we can't play like North Melbourne play. We're not at that stage yet. So I think sometimes the commentary is around what their expectation of is how the game should look. We're in a win-loss industry sometimes, but so I struggle with that, is that we all have different list profiles. We've got different ways that we need to play based on that. Working with the strengths of what we have. So the reporting of that, I think, sometimes is a bit skewed towards the ideal game, which isn't, it's not perfect. Like, I don't think everyone should have the same philosophy, because we all have different programs and things like that. But yeah, sometimes it's really like, but then there's some of the media that really do their work and have a great understanding, especially from where the games come from, where teams have come from, rather than just, making a generalist comment on how they think the game should look.
You make a great point, because the coach has a completely different objective to, say, the CEO of the AFL, because they want to sell the product and you want to win games. So I dare say if you kicked one straight 6 to 0-5, you walk away pretty happy because you win by a point. So
well, everyone wants it. Contrary to some of the reporting last year, is that everyone wants to kick goals. Sometimes it's harder to execute. But yeah, sometimes tactically there's things that you want to take away from an opposition that to get the game on your terms. Now, every now and then you get it wrong. But it's striking the balance. We still in a position that we are representatives of the game, so we need to be able to promote it in a positive manner. Every now and then there's little things that you have to adjust to try and get the win, so which might look ugly. I'm okay with that. I can cop that, but ideally we're still promoters of the game, and that's at the forefront of our mind, but also what's best for our group as well.
And last year, it was your first season, 4 wins. I think from a pre-season prediction point of view, most people would have said the Dogs weren't going to get 4 wins because, like you touched on the list profile, quite a young building list. You must have walked away from that season pretty happy with the start.
Yeah, it was. It was. I think we were predicted to finish last, worst list in the out of the 18 teams, and then probably wouldn't win a game. So, I think what we created last year was just a belief and a really strong foundation based around standards and behaviours, and that filtered through the program, and the byproduct of that was we got 4 wins. We didn't do anything flash, but it set us up now for a really good launch pad, I guess, into my second year, but also builds belief that what we've set up and I guess that discovery phase of the things that we learnt last year should hold us in good stead and be able to add a few more layers this year. So, externally there's always predictions, but we were pretty resilient internally that we knew that it might be a 3-year process, and year 1 we've been able to tick off on 4 wins.
How hard is that process when you do look at the lists across the league and you have North Melbourne and Brisbane who are incredibly strong, and Adelaide who have been up there the whole time, and then these newer, younger sides that are really going to struggle to make up that ground in a hurry, especially in shortened seasons? Is it difficult going into the season knowing that there is a gap?
Not really, because, you got to be realistic. So if you set realistic expectations and goals, I think that makes it easier. What does show in the women's game is you can climb quite quickly. So there's certain areas that we were poor at that we think we can climb, in year 2. But yeah, it's interesting is there are really established programs and consistent with personnel as well. And that's what we found last year. We had 12 new players come onto our list. So that's over a third of the list, or just under half the list new. So you've got to be realistic about where your group's at, and it takes time. But everyone aspires to have that consistent and the sustained success that, the likes of Brisbane, Adelaide and Melbourne, and now North Melbourne are starting to have. So that's something you aspire to.
Speaking of the list, it's currently at 30. There's been talk that there needs to be more given the injuries are so quick to really affect a side. You have 6 or 7 injuries and all of a sudden we're talking top-up players.
Yeah.
Are you someone who wants a couple of extras, or...?
I think it would be handy. I think what would be good is if we could have 2 development players. Yep. So we see in the men's game, you've got some talls that you can put a couple of years into. And I think that would be handy if we can have a couple of development players. I think that the list will expand when we get more games. Yep. We're probably in a bit of a holding pattern at the moment. It is. We only had, I think we were able to name 24 on the weekend for our practice match. And we had to name a couple of injured players as emergencies because we had to name emergencies. So, a couple of injuries does really...
It can derail.
Absolutely. But we're probably maybe 1 or 2 extra players, but I would like to add those as your development players, especially from talls and things like that. I think that would be good.
And are you pretty keen to see the season fleshed out a bit further? Get a game against every team?
That's, you want to play. I think we've finished a 13-week or 14-week pre-season block, and we only play 12 games. So ideally, and then you've got the off season. So ideally, if you can play everyone once, I think that would be a really good way. And then align it with those second tier leagues, whether it be the WAFL, the SANFL, the VFLW. So then, your players that potentially aren't picked then are still assisting in their development. And I think that's the best way to develop the league and grow the league and make it a greater spectacle, is you're developing those players underneath. So you've got that alignment of programs.
That must be so hard when you have to sometimes drop a player and then there's no way for them to go and play in the twos
bloody hard.
and prove themselves.
Yeah, it's really hard, and it's something that we're going to deal with I know that we've got scrimmages, but it's not the same. Potentially at scrimmages you might be playing out of position because there might be the 3 teams that you're listed with might all have backs, right? So someone has to play somewhere else. And I know a couple of years ago when I was at Melbourne we had players playing in all different positions in the scrimmages. So it is tough. I think that's one area that I think is probably needs to be really looked at. Is that though we want to continue to develop that 25 to 30 player, and if we're reliant just on training to pick players, I don't think that that's probably the right thing to do.
There are highs and lows of coaching. You can go from one extreme of announcing a debutant to then delisting someone as well. So I want to start with the positive in the debutants.
Thank you.
You do get the opportunity to effectively make someone's dream come true.
Yeah.
How have you found that as a opportunity?
Yeah, I get quite emotional about the girls who debut. Last year we had 4 debutantes, which was really exciting. And we go back to social media, we filmed one on TikTok. We announced it on TikTok while she was doing a TikTok, and it's really cool because that's what they've worked towards. And especially coming into this season is we've got last year's draft was the first draft where girls were playing in girls' leagues from under 10. So it's something that they've wanted to do. They haven't come across from another code or anything like that. These are the girls that have gone, yep, I want to play football. So it's pretty cool to be able to, as you say, some of them it's their dream, and that's a pretty cool moment.
And then, the other side of that coin.
Horrible.
I remember, I think we chatted on the phone. I think you're on the way to your exit interviews last year.
Yeah.
So you had to delist some players. What is that exit interview like?
Oh, it's yuck. It's horrible because you build connections and relationships with these people, and then you've got to tell them that they're no longer required. I think that, and we already know as of now, like we haven't even started the season, that you have to roll over 3 out of your 30. So there's already 3 that, we have to make a decision on. It's horrible. You just hope that you've been able to, the messaging throughout the year, it doesn't come as a shock. And that's something that we want to make sure that we're constantly checking in with our players and being really open and honest of where they're at. But there's some that you're just like, oh, I don't really want to do this. And then it's the worst part of the job, the worst part.
You are fresh off a practice match against the Eagles, which I think ended in a draw.
It did.
Coaching against a coach who you used to coach, if that makes sense. So Daisy Pearce.
Yeah.
How do you find going up against her?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I think Daisy, even as a player, used to coach me as a coach. Just her knowledge. She's a really astute football person. But it was great. It's I think coming in at the same time and probably having a very similar list as well. We were having a chat post-game, and she's like, oh, we'll just split the points. That probably works out about right. Those guys did well first half. We did well second. But she's just got an astute mind and a great nature, and able to articulate her message really well. And I even love listening to her now when she speaks. There's a lot that I take from when she speaks as well, even as a coach. But she's just a great person.
She had been touted at one stage as a potential senior coach in the men's program. Do you see that being a near future, not for Daisy, not to put any pressure on her, but that a woman can take the role in an AFL environment as a head coach?
I don't see why not. I don't think that, Chris Fagan is a prime example of, you don't have to have been a player at the top level. I think it's a lot of it is about, the man management side of things, how you educate, how you get your message across. And I think now, and I know for me, is I just want to be a coach. I don't want to be a female coach. Yeah. And I think that that's something that has probably, you see the coaches coming through now, the female coaches that are coaching in the W, I think that they would probably all be similar, is that they just want to be, I guess, critiqued as a coach, whether they're coaching men or women. But I definitely think that we will see a female coach coaching in the men's space in the near future.
What was your pathway to get to this point? Because AFLW wasn't around 10 years ago.
No.
And I know your background was in golf, but
yes.
to get into the coaching side of the sport?
Yeah, well, I debuted at the tender age, I think, of 36, 37, Gibbo. So at the St Kilda Sharks.
Kicking well?
Yeah, I was a decoy forward for Jazzy Garner. But yeah, down at St Kilda Sharks. And I think I got a taste of coaching there, probably being, more in out of the first and reserves is saw that there might have been a little bit of disconnect between the coaching and the playing group. So put my hand up to assist and got a taste for it there. And then I actually I applied for a talent ID role at the Sandy Dragons. And Ryan O'Connor, this was back in 2017, Ryan O'Connor was the talent manager there, and Darren Flanagan. And I spoke to those guys, and at the end of the interview, they said, would you coach the Sandy Dragons girls program? And I'm like, I can if you want. I don't have any individual coaching experience from a football perspective, so I just threw my hat in the ring and learnt on the job, so to speak, and spent 3 years coaching that program at the Sandy Dragons and built up a relationship through that. Mick Stanier was really great in opening the door to Coates. Well, it's Coates League now. Back then it was NAB League. Coaches to come and observe on game day. And I put my hand up straight away. I think I was only one of I think there was myself and one other, which I found strange in itself. And yeah, was able to go in and a couple of games, spent time in the coach's box and just observing. And he was a really great confidant and someone that I could bounce ideas off. And then 2020, I think it was. So a little bit of a different way of getting into it. I wasn't, grew up, in a coaching environment at football. But and then 2020, COVID hit. And I actually went for I was still at the Dragons and the season got shut down. I think we played 3 games. And went for a position as a development coach at North Melbourne. But because I'm a pretty loyal person and I spoke to Mick about it, and within 24 hours he had a PD for a development coach. He'd emailed through. So that's how I pretty much got involved in AFLW, just through, building that connection and having someone, I guess, of Mick's calibre go, look, let's give you an opportunity, which was pretty cool.
So prior to debuting on field, was footy a big part of your life? Were you knowledgeable, passionate? Yeah,
I loved it. I'm a footy nuffy. I could sit and watch every game. We used to have, growing up, we had a school backed on, our back fence was onto a school. So, the radio would go on the weekend if we didn't go to the game. Dad was Essendon supporter, and I early on was a Bulldogs supporter. My nan, probably up until the age of 8, but then found myself going a lot to Windy Hill with Dad and my sister. So then just jumped ship, which I'm sad to say. But yeah, became a Bomber supporter, and then listening to the radio at the halftime break, we'd always jump the fence and go and have a kick. So Dad, even though he had 3 girls, was very lucky that he also had 3 very sporty girls, and he was great. We used to go and have a kick all the time. And then when I was travelling overseas, in my carry-on, I'd always travel with a footy. So myself and some of the caddies, we'd have a kick all the time, whether it be on the practice range or I remember we got in trouble from we were kicking in the main street in downtown Stockholm. The police arrived and we're going to confiscate the ball and all of that sort of stuff, and late at night. But yeah, I'm a footy nuffy. I love it.
Surely that's the first overseas security issue surrounding a Sharon.
Yeah. Glenn and Tim Burton, mad Carlton supporters. We used to have a kick all the time. So, yeah, the locals weren't happy. There was a bit of noise going on down there.
We've alluded to the golf career. What exactly did that look like?
Yeah, so I actually started underage tennis and played a fair bit of tennis, different representative teams. Played for Victoria in the Margaret Court Cup underage. And then my doubles partner I had at the time, her dad was heavily involved in golf at Medway Golf Club and went and had a couple of hits. And I like the fact that you didn't need someone to practice with. So at about 15, I pretty much went cold turkey off tennis and took up golf and was lucky enough to get a scholarship at the Victorian Institute of Sport that was based here at Albert Park. So spent 5 years in that program, did a fair bit of travelling with tournaments interstate and overseas, and then turned professional in 2002. Got my card in Europe and headed over there in 2003. So played on the Ladies European Tour for 7 years. Probably the last couple were more in a sporadic nature because in that time I also, in the off-season, which the season over in Europe was pretty much from May through to September, I'd go over and caddy in the States for a friend on the LPGA and actually liked the strategic side and the fact that I could help someone around the course. And in about 2009, started to do a little bit more caddying, so became a full-time caddy for 4 years on the men's LPGA and then, the women's tour and then the men's tour as well with Nick Flanagan. So, and then sitting at at a train station in Japan. After caddying, I spent a couple of months there. I think it was it 2011, 2012? Just rang my twin sister and said, I've had a gutful. I'm ready to come home. I want to meet my mates at the pub on a Friday and stuff like that. And then just jumped on a plane and flew back to Australia, and that was it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well experienced. Where did you base when you were overseas? Did you have a...
Yeah, so I was lucky enough. Over in Europe, it's... because financially it's probably not the number one tour, the Aussies tended to look after each other, and same with the Poms. So I had a family, Gerard and Fiona Adams. Gerald was a caddy who is no longer with us, so I used to spend my off weeks with him in Ottershaw, so Junction 10, just off the M25. And his neighbour was Laura Davies, so we used to spend a fair bit of time around at Laura's place, so not far from the McLaren headquarters. So I used to spend time there in the off weeks, and then also with another friend, Ian Byers, who was just a sports nuffy. So was very lucky that I had a couple of places to in the off weeks to hang out, because it's in a week off you can't just jump on a plane and come home. Yeah. So that was nice, because I used to get quite homesick, especially early on. Not having that support. We can't stay at home if we want to play golf. There was no real tour here, so we had to go overseas, and so I was very lucky in that regard that I had a couple of really good families that I could stay with.
Have any of those skills you learnt with golf and overseas been transferable to footy at all?
Oh, I think so. I think the strategic nature and utilising your strengths is, as a golfer, you want to map yourself, get yourself around the golf course and utilising your strengths. And that's something that I try and encourage our players, is that, and that's how we pretty much shape our game style as well, is around our players. There's something in there that can, you can utilise your strength. The strengths element, so the strategic nature. I think probably the comms piece as well. It's something that I always thought that I was good at. I can be better. We play, during the week. In a golf tournament, you generally have a pro-am, so you're talking to sponsors, to executives, CEOs, so a vast array of shareholders, so to speak. So that's something that's assisted as well, coming into a club environment. But yeah, there's probably more crossover than what I thought from an individual sport into a team sport. But I do love the team element, and something that I speak about with our players all the time, how lucky they are to have people that they can leverage off and lean on in that team environment.
There's a Coaches Association award within footy, and I've always wondered how much time a coach actually spends thinking about giving these votes post-game. Is it something you actually invest in, or do you handle it off to someone else to write them down? Or
it's funny is because last year was the first year that I had to do it, and I had to go back and watch the tape because you're so invested in, and you look at the stats, but you're so invested in what's happening in the moment that I always have to go back and watch the tape to do my votes, and then I get a little bit of basically who hurt us the most, because everyone sees it differently. Like coaches will see what their players have done if they've played a role, but then you also go, well, who's dominated against us and whether we're successful or unsuccessful. But yeah, I'm not one to just be able. Well, you can see who's playing well, but to make a conscious decision, I need to go back and look at the video.
So you take a bit of pride in your votes?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a really important award.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
How much tape do you watch? There's your games that you're going to watch the replays and learn from.
Yeah.
There's opposition games. We spoke about the fact you don't actually play every team. So are you watching a Friday night game between a team?
Yep.
Between teams that you don't play?
Yeah. So I watch everything. I do a lot of vision. So especially around probably pre-season and stuff like that, it's all about us. But then you're always looking to the future, and so we've already been looking at vision for Melbourne, for Richmond and Hawthorn. Vision plays, and especially in the education piece with our players, vision is really important part of our education, and so for individuals, but also as a team, but then that oppo analysis as well. So yeah, I'm big on vision.
From your stint in coaching so far, has there been a player that you've found really hard to coach against?
Good question. I'm a bit nervous about coming up against Kate Hoare. That's probably one that her and Hanksy, knowing how good they are internally. Probably the rucks. I think the rucks. I remember the GWS game, the very first game last year. O'Dowd, being able to come up with a plan that could stop her. We didn't know much about her, so it's probably more around the players that you don't know a lot about, that they're the harder ones, I guess, to scout. But yeah, all teams have their strengths, but the hardest ones to come up against are the ones that you don't know a lot about. You
do have Melbourne round one. You know a certain degree of Melbourne's style and players. Is that helpful, or do things change so quickly that it's almost irrelevant?
Yeah, no. Well, they've had a pretty big shift in their personnel as well since I was there. It can help, but I think that there's been probably a lot of change in the way that they play as well, because of the personnel that they have. So having an understanding of what triggers they might pull and stuff like that, and what to look for, especially in the vision. But they're such a well-coached program, and a group that's been together for a while. So I'm sure that they'll throw a few curly ones our way. But yeah, having an understanding probably more of how the players play, rather than how the team's going to play. That's probably our, I guess, the benefit, the IP that we can bring is how each individual plays. But I'm sure Melbourne have changed their styles and things like that since, it'll be 2 seasons. So, yeah.
Well, best of luck for the season ahead. I'll be keeping a close eye on the Dogs, and I really appreciate your time. It's great to see you as always.
Likewise, Gibbo. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Tam.